I challenged myself to come up with one bad and one good thing about every single hero in Overwatch. The focus was mostly on the design of the character, not just solely balance. This was very interesting to do and quite tough, so I hope you enjoy the process. Right, let's just do this. D.Va. D.Va's got a really fun kit. I think it's very creative. I just think it really struggles in 5v5 to find an identity as opposed to how 6v6 was, which makes Matrix super annoying. Doomfist has one of the coolest kits probably in the entire game, super fun to use, but he is completely limited by the fact that Empowered Punch is so reliant for Doomfist to do things, and they need to put some more strength in the rest of his abilities and the rest of his kit. Hazard, I like the fact that we decided to add a wall. I think walls are a really fun tool and shouldn't just be limited to Mei, but that wall and the rest of his kit are so overloaded that he is just the most annoying character to play against because he seemingly does everything. Winston is the epitome of tank. He is the most perfect tank to ever exist. I do wish somehow they could figure out a way to give him a perk set that allowed him to counter some of his counters a lot harder, because he gets countered really badly, but I don't know how the hell they do that. Wrecking Ball has got to be one of the most fun characters in the entire game. I think the grapple mechanic is perfectly designed and is super fun to use, but he also does have some of the most overpowered perks to ever exist. Malga, I actually like the idea of a dual gun system. I think it's very creative, very fun. I just think the way they've implemented it isn't very fun. They've used it as a way to create sustain and to create a tank that doesn't die. That's not fun to play or play against. Orisa is super satisfying once you nail down that cooldown rotation and you're able to kind of lock in and just enter a flow with Orisa. I love Orisa, but she's also super limited to just that simple rotation, and the main strength of Orisa is the fact that she's able to just live for so long. I really like the idea of a hook and the implementation of a hook. I just don't like the way that they have used it as a form of a one-shot. That just should never be the case. I really like the way Zarya helps enable teammates and herself, and then gets rewarded through that by getting more charge, which gives her more damage. I think that's a very smart gameplay loop. But similar to D.Va, she really struggles in the 5v5 format to not be super unhealthy. She's strong, she doesn't struggle in strength-wise, but she becomes very annoying to play against as she's this super high sustain, high damage tank. Domina's gun is super satisfying and super fun to use, and I think the idea of this hybrid of like a shot that goes through like matrices and blocks, but the hit scan shot, I like the way that works. It's very creative and very fun, but the actual gameplay loop of her is very stale, and her kit is very lacking in use cases for everything, which makes her a very pigeonholed, simple, boxed-in design. Dragon Queen probably has some of the best self-sustain designed wise. Not the strongest, but I think the way her sustain is designed into her kit is extremely healthy. I just think her problem is that for her to be strong, she's an over-reliance on being able to heal a lot instead of any other part of her kit is not the strongest. It's usually just she can lifesteal a lot, and that's why she's strong. So her biggest strength ends up being the reason she's annoying sometimes. Ramatra, I like the idea of form changing. I think that's a smart idea. It's a very well executed idea. Just this guy's kit, his block is disgusting. I think their block needs a lot of work and a lot of tuning, and the rest of his kit needs a lot of tuning. Reinhardt is such a cool character because he's able to be picked up by low ranks and new players very easily, but at the same time has quite a high ceiling that you're able to push him to, and I love that in a character. The biggest flaw is the way that the shield is so vital to some of his strength. He has an over-reliance on the need for his shield, which ends up making him super unfun to play against because you're just shooting shields. Sigma's going to be one of the most well-balanced characters in the history of the game, and one of the best transitions from Overwatch 1 into this new Overwatch was Sigma. He works super well here. I think my biggest issue comes to some of his perks. I wish his perks came a little earlier. I wish they were shuffled around a little more. I think for him to be a more versatile tank, he needs some of those things to either be an earlier perk or just be base kit. So that would be cool. Bastion is a far more creative and fun character than a lot of people give credit to. I think that his nade is just such a great part of his kit. I just wish that he didn't have such an over-reliance on the turret form as opposed to his recon form, because it is super easy just to kite and wait out. He almost needs a balance of strength between the two, and he has to make a choice of which one he wants in what moment. Emery's gun is super satisfying to use, and the ability to, walk at the same speed while scoped in and stuff like that is so fun. I wish his ult had a limited amount of shots. It's a weird one, but I wish it had a limited amount of shots. I don't like the fact that he just shoots as many as he wants. I wish it worked more like a Venture ult. I love how satisfying Junkrat's bombs feel to hit direct shots with. I really wish his conch mines were far more expressive as a movement tool, and worked more closely to maybe like a raise satchel where you're able to get way more momentum instead of just directly up. And so that means we wouldn't have to have Conk Mines be part of a one-shot combo. Mei is one of the single most fun characters in this game for me personally, and she's super creative. I really like the way war works. I really like how Mei is implemented. I'd say her perks, it's low hanging fruit, are a lot less interesting, and I don't add as much to Mei as I wish they did, because I think Mei could have some super interesting perks, but she just doesn't have them. I appreciate Soldier's simplicity and the way this character's design is so simple, yet works very well. I do wish there was a way we could make it so he wasn't so tied to health pack being in the same place. If it worked more like a stim pack, something like that would be a lot better. Symmetric teleport is so cool, and it's amazing that it works in a game. Any game with a TP like this, it would instantly break, but it works so well. Here, I wish, personally with a TP, that the TP was either less health, but you could TP back and forth for it a little quicker, and it was a little faster of a teleport, but the health of it was a lot worse. And that's really it. That's what I can think of Smash. I think his War Stick Turret perk is one of the most creative perks in the game, and it adds a lot of choice to the character's kit. I don't like how rewarded Torbjorn can get for just spamming chokes with his primary fire. Ash is probably the best hit scan in the entire game in terms of design-wise, one of the most healthy characters to play against, play with, things like that. I still think there needs to be some way of implementing either a perk or a passive or something that allows her to reload quicker, because I think that is just what is needed. So if you were able to move over to Specialist, it would just be so much better for the character. And that's all that really ever holds her back. She needs almost a reward for a kill if she gets like ammo and things like that. Cassidy probably is one of the most satisfying guns I've ever played with. Clicking heads with Cassidy is just so fun. But I really hate the idea of having Hinder on a hit scan. I know the point of it, but I think it is just really unfun to play against, and that has to be a workaround. Also, Recon Arrow is a super underrated tool in Overwatch, and I think the idea of these recon abilities should actually be more prevalent than they are, and Hanzo really and Sim are the only two that actually have it. But Hanzo then, most of his kit is to do with the fact that he's able to one-shot from a long range while holding cover really well. Soshan, I like the idea of the hybrid gun where you're using both equally as much as each other. I just think there's too much strength put in a right-click headshot as opposed to having a good hybrid of both. All in all, as much as the one-shot sucks, I think the charge up is probably the best way to design it, but at the same time, the one-shot is what makes this character so awful to play against. On the run, I really like ability-focused characters. I think it's cool that we're trying to find another character that relies on their abilities more than their primary fire. At the same time, due to the way Unrun's burn works, it feels like you're either doing nothing into anyone or you are literally demolishing them and there's nothing the enemy can actually do about it. I don't know what needs to be changed, but there needs to be some way where we can find a more consistent feeling character. Dash reset is the reason this character works. It's just so necessary for the character's kit. I'm going to go for a low-hanging fruit here. I also wish he had more interesting perks. I think his perks are very limited. Reaper with the addition of Dire Triggers has become a way more interesting character, especially with the fast DP perk. On top of that, I think this character actually just seriously is super underappreciated and way more versatile than people give him credit for. He does still have a really outdated ult, and I would really like his ult to be refreshed in some way, or maybe be cancelable, or something like that. Tracer is Overwatch. Tracer is one of the most perfect characters to ever exist in any game, and she is one of the most fun characters I've ever played in a video game. I struggle to find a flaw with Tracer that isn't just her perks have been annoying. I actually can't. There's not a design flaw with Tracer. It doesn't exist. A true design flaw. Yeah, okay, I'm skipping this one. Moving on to Vendetta. There actually just isn't one. Vendetta. I really like combo ability attacks. I wish we had more characters with a. What I mean by that is like the 1, 2, 3. Like, I think that's cool, and I think that should be on more characters. Just at the same time, the con has been that the overhead has been such a focus on this character's kit, and I wish we could find a way to make the other abilities more impactful, have higher uptime, be smoother, be less clunky, and then we could nerf down overhead a little bit. I really like Burrow. I think Burrow is a really well-designed ability. Super creative, super versatile, super dynamic. I think Venture does have a little bit of an over-reliance on a one-shot combo by just, emerge, dig, and shoot and melee. I think that combo is unfortunately just how Venture gets most of their value, and I'm not always a fan of that. Echo, One of the most versatile characters in the entire game. It's so fun. The movement is incredibly fun to use. My biggest flaw with her has been the shift to making her less of a hybrid between being able to poke and dive, and making her so focused on a assassin beam sticky combo, or sticky beam combo, which I think is less fun and way more limiting for the character. Pre-season 9, she used to be one of the more versatile characters. I would have said she was the most versatile character, because she was able to poke efficiently and dive efficiently, and you were basically mixing and matching that playstyle throughout a game, which was a really satisfying playstyle. But now the beam and the stickies is just how this character is functioning. And I don't like that direction as much. I might even make a whole thing about how Echo's been changed, and I don't like how Echo's been changed. Freya is a really satisfying movement. I think this movement on a character like this could have the potential to be really cool if explored properly. She just still struggles when she can't just one-shot people. She somehow needs that 2-tap potential. They need to figure out a way to make that not the case, because it's super frustrating. Pharah's entire kit is so streamlined and works so well together. It is so fun, and everything is just so harmonious and synergetic. I think Barrage is still outdated, even with the ability to move during it. I just don't like Barrage that much. I get it, but I just don't love it. Sierra's drone is cool. I think the idea of a placeable thing that you're able to interact with is a really good design choice, even if it's not explored perfectly here. And then the biggest flaw is I hate auto-aim abilities so much. I just think they're the worst thing ever. You could do literally anything else, and you had to do auto-aim abilities. I think it's lazy design, and it's just bad for the game in every way. It doesn't help anyone. Like, no one is having fun with auto-aim abilities. Sombra has been ruined, and I am a pessimistic ass about how my character has been gutted. Translocator is super fun. I like the Ender Pearl style Translocator. Flaws everything else. What I changed about the character is she has an over-reliance. Translocator is her engage, her setup, her disengage, her movement, her rotation, her everything tool. And it's all tied to one cooldown that cannot be shortened, cannot be cancelled early. She is so bound to one singular cooldown that is like on a 7-second timer. I really have always loved the way Ana has been a focus on choice. Do you save your sleep, or do you look for an engaged sleep? Do you heal, or do you deal damage? Your gun can do both, but you can't do both at the same time. Your nade can heal or anti-heal. Which one do you want to use it for? I've always loved the way her character emphasizes choices and making the right choices at the right time. Biggest flaw, I think, in 5v5 Overwatch, the anti-nade is just so superior to heal nade in every way. And I think that, unfortunately to the character, I think we need to bring down the cooldowns of her abilities, but then nerf a lot of the potency of anti-nade. So that would mean something like it wouldn't be full anti-healing, it would be like 50%, 70%, something like that. And just bring down some of the strength of that, so that you are emphasized to use the heal more or the nade when needed, but on a shorter cooldown, so you're not, so you're able to have way more uptime, but it's a weaker ability. Baptiste, I love shoot heal playstyle. I think that's super fun. Once you lock in on the flow of that, it is so fun. But its abilities are just terrible for the game. I think Immortality Field, even though it's not even strong anymore, because everyone can just kite you out, it can just like speed into you, get rid of it. It's not that strong anymore. And Regen Burst is just such a boring, lazy cooldown. This guy just has really, really bad abilities. Jetpack, I think the Lifeline, what's it even called? Lifeline? I don't know what it's called. It's really, really fun and really interesting, and does change the game. Biggest flaw is definitely probably with the bans of that. I think it shouldn't be a permanent tether. You should be up there for like 6 seconds, 5 seconds. That's enough time to get that high noon off, to get that bastion into the air during that turret form. I just think the fact that it lasts forever is kind of insane. I also think it would be cool if there was a way to somehow shoot the tether to break it. Who knows? I just think they have to really look at the health of that lifeline ability. Lucio is just one of the most perfect supports to ever exist, and I think people that want Lucio to not be in the OWSS meta are blind to the fact that this is just the character. This is like how Tracer shows up all the time. It's going to be really hard to replace Lucio. My biggest problem with him, I think there's been an over-reliance on beat being the reason Lucio's strong, and just farming beat as quick as possible is just kind of the optimal Lucio playstyle, and I do not like that nearly as much as any other playstyle for Lucio. Zen, I love the idea of a glass cannon. I think Zen is such an effective, fun character that requires a lot of discipline, good positioning, and rewards good habits. But he is quite outdated, especially in the ult. I think the ult is the most outdated part of this character's kit. He needs to be able to either use orbs, he needs to be able to, like, even just briefly shoot a little bit, do a little bit of damage with the ult. The ult just isn't, it's just not great. Or he needs to be able to fly with it, or something. Like, it's, yeah. Kiriko's like playstyle is actually super fun and super interesting to go for if they were able to, you know, hone in on it. The idea of that skirmish and flanking support is super cool and super interesting, but Suzu is just a really overloaded ability, and Kitsune is always just going to be like the strongest ult in the game, and so I think they're struggling to really ever hit what makes Kiriko good or fun to play, and instead just keep her quite annoying, right? And I hate Suzu. Life Weaver, I think pedal, platform, and grip are really creative cooldowns, but are also the reason why this character is not that strong, because these abilities require a lot of either synergy from people, or are very easily countered, or require use cases by teammates, not just yourself, to get all the maximum value out of it, and that's always going to cap out how strong Life Weaver can ever be. Mercy is super fun movement, some of the best movement in a game I've ever played, but she does really just have this limited playstyle with the fact that her weapon is just, you know, it's heal damage, but she's not able to compete with the rest of the supports in that way, and so she feels like she's providing a lot less to the team than she actually might be. Moira is a great character for everyone to pick up. I think it helps people that are picking up keyboard and mouse the first time, have movement disabilities, struggle, like, you know, maybe focus, anything like that. Moira is just great for those people. I just think there needs to be a small semblance of choice added into the character that allows the character to be more dynamic, more expressive, and just less punishing to players playing against Moira in the lower ranks. Brig is my favorite character. I love Brig. My favorite thing about Brig is the way that she is a character that is a bunch of small decisions that add up over the course of a time to win a game. It's not about one bad decision, one good decision. It's about, did you hit 10 out of 10 of the whip shots, or did you only hit 6 out of 10 of the whip shots during that fight? Her biggest problem is, I think, with the heal cut through thing, she really does struggle nowadays to actually hold her own in a lot of fights, and just has to rely on a lot of cheese and a lot of support and a lot of just running away. And I wish she was a bit better in some of these fights. I obviously still take these fights, and you just have to play around it, but she's definitely able to sustain herself a lot less. But Brig's a really strong character, and so it's really hard to strong design. So it's similar to Tracer, where it's hard to think of a flaw. I like the idea of adding these like gun supports, like, you know, like Bap and Honor and Nalari and stuff, like where these characters are, you know, if hitscan players want to play some support, they can do this. I just think she needs a little more, you know, of an actual push to support and help your team. She is just pylon on an angle. You can play Alari if you are a good Sojourn, Ashe, Cass, whatever player. You could probably play Alari up to like match that rank. You can literally do the exact same thing. I wish she had more of an incentive to actually support a team. Juno is one of the best beginning characters in the entire game because she's super easy to get into, but she's well designed and really healthy and has a pretty nice healthy skill curve. So I always will recommend Juno to new players. I don't love auto lock abilities. I just don't. I think missiles are not that fun to play with. They're just not that fun and interactive. I think any other ability would be more interesting, but you know, it's not that bad. It doesn't do that much damage. It's not that much healing, but it is unfun to play against auto lock. Mizuki, I think Mizuki Katashiro Return is such a great tool, and I really love these type of return abilities in games, but I think Mizuki is not incentivized as much to use it as I wish he was, because he basically has to give up his only rotation and escape tool to just go maybe get some value, and he doesn't really hold his own very well when pushed, as opposed to a character like Brig or Lucio, so he does kind of rely on this cooldown as a way to get out, which makes it a little less fun to play than I wish it was. Wu Young is one of my favorite primary fires. I mean, like, that is the entire kit. It's super satisfying when you land these, especially with the triple ball perk. I just wish his abilities were, you know, lower cooldowns, lower strength, had a far more uptime, far more agency. He's just a primary fire slop machine, and I find that really boring. Anyway, there's all the characters in Overwatch, and one bad thing, one good thing. I gave some fixes in there, and some I struggled to give points to, but this was super interesting, super fun. So I hope you really get something out of this.